The European Commission chief, Ursula von der Leyen, has warned Hungary to scrap its controversial LGBT law or face legal consequences. Now, that law is set to come into force tomorrow. It bans schools from using materials seen as promoting homosexuality. Well, today, Ursula von der Leyen said the law contradicts the values of the EU. Have a listen.
It deeply contradicts the fundamental values of the European Union, the protection of minorities, human dignity, equality and respect for human rights. These values are so firmly anchored in Article 2 of our treaty. The heads of state and government at the European Council have expressed very firm support for the European Commission, and I will use all the instruments at the Commission's disposal to defend these principles.
Diese Grundsätze zu verteidigen.
Well, covering this story for us today is our European Affairs editor, Catherine Nicholson. She's on the line now from Brussels. Catherine, first of all, tell us a bit more then about this law and why it's so controversial.
Yes, as you mentioned, Nadia, this law due to come into effect on Thursday, tomorrow. The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán says it is about protecting children. Though, as you've heard, Ursula von der Leyen says it's a disgrace. Now, the official name of this law is the Anti-Paedophilia Act. It was originally billed as a law that was going to toughen up punishments for child abuse. So far, so uncontroversial. However, there have been amendments from the original text, and the final text contains amendments that talk about things like banning from schools content which supposedly promotes homosexuality. Now, critics of the law saying, well, look, first of all, what is promotion of homosexuality and inclusion of any talk of homosexuality in an act called anti-paedophilia conflates homosexuality and paedophilia by definition. Now, this does come after other incidents in Hungary regarding LGBT rights. For example, 6 months ago, the Hungarian government changed the constitution. And one of the things they changed was to alter the definition of a family to exclude LGBTIQ individuals. Now, there's been a very heated debate about this in the European Parliament today. The Hungarian government spokesman Zoltán Kovács tweeting about this in his usual style, saying that this debate was a circus. He talked about colonial and moral imperialism, Hungary bashing, and even Orbanophobia, but he is up against quite a lot of opponents on this. The European Commission, as we've heard, up in arms, a majority of members of the European Parliament as well, rights groups making increasing amounts of noise about this. And the latest we've had is from the eminent Venice Commission. A lot of our viewers won't have heard of it, but it advises the Council of Europe, which is a very important human rights body.
And we heard Catherine, Ursula von der Leyen in that soundbite talking about using all the instruments at the Commission's disposal to defend EU principles here. What does that mean? What is the EU actually threatening here?
Well, one of the first things that we think they're looking at is legal action known as infringement proceedings. This is actually something that the European Commission does quite often on all kinds of different matters. It can be about trade issues, for example. This kind of proceedings can result in fines for the party targeted. So the Hungarian government could be levied with a fine. It's also been leaked today, actually, and this being confirmed to France 24 by one of the European commissioners. This leak that the Commission is currently looking at blocking Hungary's portion of the massive EU COVID recovery fund. Hungary due to get 7 billion euros of that money. But this means that the Commission is looking at making the transfer of that money conditional on Hungary altering its policy on this law, and it looks like other matters as well, because this is by far from the first clash between Viktor Orbán and the EU institutions. There's already proceedings that have been brought by the European Parliament relating to degradations of rule of law, media freedoms, minority rights. Now, we know that at the head of state level, there has to be a majority decision, and Poland, a strong ally of Viktor Orbán, has been blocking the so-called Article 7 proceedings, which would be a very serious matter. However, on this current issue regarding LGBT rights, we know that a majority of EU heads of state do support the Commission, and in this instance, for action to be taken, a majority would be enough.
Catherine Nicholson, live for us there in Brussels. Thank you very much indeed.